From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. I'm Leo Magpayo and this is Dateline Malacañang. It will be a full Tuesday for Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. with engagements spanning industry, healthcare, culture, and the arts. In the morning, the President heads to MD Juan Enterprises Incorporated in Novaliches, Caloocan City, where he will inspect the company's e-mobility readiness programs under the Department of Science and Technology, or DOST. The visit highlights the administration's push to integrate innovation and sustainability into local manufacturing. Also in the morning, President Marcos moves to St. Luke's Medical Center, Global City in Taguig, joining the PhilHealth Partnership Program aimed at strengthening benefit packages and policies. The event underscores government efforts to expand access to healthcare and reinforce collaboration between public and private institutions. In the afternoon, the Chief Executive returns to Malacañang Palace for a courtesy call with Miss Gwyneth Dorado, a symbolic engagement reflecting the palace's openness to cultural and civic figures. The day concludes in Pasay City, where President Marcos will preside over the reopening of the Coconut Palace at the Cultural Center of the Philippines, or CCP complex. The iconic structure, long associated with Philippine heritage and state functions, reopens as a cultural venue, marking a renewed commitment to preserving national identity through architecture and the arts.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Monday conducted an aerial inspection of flood-stricken areas in Bulacan and Pampanga province, assessing the widespread inundation brought by recent tropical cyclones and the enhanced southwest monsoon, or habagat. Flying over submerged communities, the President saw firsthand the extent of damage. Entire neighborhoods underwater, with rooftops barely visible above the flood line. The inspection aimed to determine the immediate response and assistance required from government agencies to support affected families. Joining the Chief Executive aboard the aerial survey was Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon, who briefed him on ongoing flood control operations and outlined long-term engineering solutions under study. These include drainage improvements, river dredging, and major infrastructure projects designed to reduce the impact of recurring floods. President Marcos assured residents that the government will sustain relief efforts in Bulacan and Pampanga, emphasizing that assistance from food packs and cash aid to shelter support will continue to reach displaced families. The palace underscored that the aerial inspection is part of the administration's dual strategy: addressing the urgent humanitarian needs of flood-affected communities while pursuing comprehensive long-term flood mitigation programs to strengthen resilience against future disasters.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. personally visited flood-affected families at the Bacolor Integrated School Evacuation Center in Pampanga Province, underscoring the government's continuing relief and recovery efforts. The President inspected classrooms converted into evacuation areas, spoke with displaced residents, and oversaw the distribution of 10,000 pesos cash assistance to heads of families under the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD's Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situation, or IX program. He was joined by DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian, Pampanga Vice Governor Dennis Pineda, Bacolor Mayor Eduardo Datu, and other officials. As of August 23rd, the center was sheltering 216 families or 836 individuals who had been staying there for more than 2 weeks. The DSWD had earlier provided food packs and hot meals through its mobile kitchen. Across Bacolor, 11 active evacuation centers continue to serve 559 families or 2,221 individuals. In Pampanga Province, the DSWD reported that 315,807 families, over 1 million individuals, were affected by the enhanced southwest monsoon and recent typhoons Luis, Maymay, and Neneng. Of these, more than 3,100 families remain in evacuation centers. Flooding has been reported in at least 18 towns and cities, damaging roads, government facilities, and flood control structures. 4 houses were destroyed and 47 partially damaged, while agricultural losses reached 423.84 million pesos, affecting nearly 8,800 farmers and fisherfolk. A state of calamity was declared in Pampanga on August 12th. The DSWD has so far provided 243.37 million pesos worth of assistance, with additional standby funds and food packs ready for deployment. For long-term flood mitigation, the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, has begun declogging drainage systems and waterways, while proposing major infrastructure projects, including dredging works, Phase 2 of the Pampanga Delta Development Project, the Pampanga River Floodway, the Manila Bay Coastal Defense Dike, and construction of revetments, culverts, detention basins, and dams.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Monday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. personally inspected the widespread flooding in Pampanga, which had earlier been placed under a state of calamity following successive weather disturbances. The chief executive attended a situation briefing with local officials in Barangay Santo Niño, San Fernando, Pampanga, where he was updated on ongoing relief operations and flood control measures. According to the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or PDRRMC, as of Monday, 253 barangays across 16 local government units, or LGUs, were inundated, affecting 314,945 families, or more than 1 million individuals. Of these, 3,142 families are currently housed in 197 evacuation centers, while another 2,599 families sought refuge outside designated facilities. Governor Lilia Pineda appealed to the President for the immediate approval of National Irrigation Administration or NIA projects to address the province's recurring flood problem, noting that flood waters also flow in from neighboring provinces such as Nueva Ecija, Tarlac, and Bulacan. In his remarks after the briefing, President Marcos admitted that existing flood control systems were overwhelmed by the sheer volume of rainfall, stressing that the crisis is not only due to infrastructure gaps but also the intensifying effects of climate change. The President outlined the government's immediate response, repairing damaged facilities and restoring essential services, while cautioning that interventions must be carefully assessed to ensure durability against future floods.
Kakatapos lang namin yung briefing tungkol sa flooding situation sa Region 3 at talagang ramdam na napakabigat ang ulan at napakarami ang bumagsak na tubig. Kaya't na-overwhelm lahat ng mga ating mga flood control na flood management programs. Ang problema, kitang-kita, siyempre alam naman natin na marami sa halimbawa sa Bulacan na mga flood control na hindi naman nagawa kaya nagkakaganto. Ngunit kailangan din natin maunawaan na hindi lang dahil sa problema ng flood control project, kung hindi pati na sa lakas talaga ng ulan na hindi pa natin nakita sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. Ito ay ang naging resulta ng climate change. Kailangan maunawaan din ng tao na yung climate change ay talagang nandito na at dyan tayo naapektuhan. Hindi bale at tayo yung gumawa na nakapag-desisyon tayo tungkol sa mga immediate measures na kailangan gawin in the immediate term, in the medium term, and in the long term. In the immediate term, syempre, ayusin natin yung mga nasira at babalikan natin lahat ng mga nasira. Yun ang pinaka-immediate na kailangan gawin, madalian para matapos ulit. Ang problema din dyan ay hindi pa tayo nakakasiguro kung titigil na yung ulan. Dahil kailangan natin, halimbawa may mga lugar may tubig pa, hindi pa natin ma-assess kung ano yung damage dahil may tubig pa, may binabaha pa, kailangan natin antayin yan. Pangalawa, binabantayan natin ang panahon kasi kahit yung mga nasira, pag aayusin natin ngayon, bumalik na naman yan at masisira ulit yung bagong gawa, kaya napakasayang naman ang ating gagawin. Kaya medyo kailangan natin alalayan at bantayan na mabuti na maging effective kung ano man yung gagawin natin ay magiging matibay at hindi mawawala at hindi masisira sa susunod na baha.
Among the projects discussed was the construction of 5 Sabo River dams in Nueva Ecija designed to slow water flow, reduce siltation, and store additional water for domestic, industrial, and agricultural use. For long-term solutions, the administration is also studying a major road project to Bataan, envisioned as part of a broader strategy to manage water flow from Manila Bay. President Marcos assured residents that the government is meeting their urgent needs: food, shelter, and healthcare, while national agencies continue to mobilize for comprehensive flood management programs.
There is a project for Sabo River dams na 5 kaagad sa Nueva Ecija dahil ito yung kumukuha sa tubig sa taas. Sierra Madre na yung pinagkukuhanan ng tubig. At yan ay makakatulong para bawasan ang bilis ng pagbaba ng tubig, mabawasan ang siltation at makakapag-ipon pa tayo ng tubig para gamitin for household use, industrial, for irrigation sa agrikultura. Marami pa tayong mga iba't ibang mga gagawin. Isang long-term plan ay gumawa ng dike na kalsada mula sa malayo yung aming tinitingnan hanggang Pilar sa Bataan. And we did this the long-term plan. Sa kasalukuyan, pinag-aaralan ngayon natin. That is about 100 kilometers, kaya medyo matatagalan, pero pinag-aaralan na natin para at least, at the very least, meron tayong plano at meron na tayong masisimulan doon sa napakahaba na gagawin na dike na kalsada para maharang ang tubig na nanggagaling sa dagat, sa Manila Bay. So that is the situation that we have now. I'm satisfied that yung immediate needs ng tao, yung kanilang pagkain, yung kanilang shelter, yung kanilang yung healthcare na dala ng pamahalaan ng national government ay nandyan lahat. Hindi naman tayo nauubusan ng gamit, hindi naman tayo nauubusan ng tulong. At patuloy yan hanggat nangangailangan yung tao ay binibigyan natin silang lahat ng mga kanilang pangangailangan.
The briefing was attended by key cabinet officials, including Department of Social Welfare and Development Secretary Rex Gatchalian, Education Secretary Juan Edgardo Angara Jr., Department of Public Works and Highways Secretary Vince Dizon, Department of the Interior and Local Government Secretary Juanito Victor Remulla, Acting Labor Secretary Francis Tolentino, Acting Environment Secretary Juan Miguel Cuna, Department of National Defense Senior Undersecretary Irineo Espino, NIA Administrator Eduardo Guillen, and Executive Secretary Ralph Recto.
Dateline Malacañang.
The number of Filipino families experiencing hunger declined in the past 3 months, according to the second quarter 2026 Social Weather Survey, or SWS. Survey results show that 20.3% of households reported involuntary hunger in June, down from 23.2% in March. The drop was most pronounced in the Visayas, where hunger incidence fell from 28% to 22.3%. Rates also eased in Metro Manila and Balanced Luzon, though Mindanao recorded an increase, rising to 24% in June. The survey further noted improvements among self-rated poor families, with hunger incidence declining from 27.5% to 24.5%. Among those who consider themselves food poor, the rate also fell from 32.6% to 29.9%. Conducted from June 20th to the 29th, 2026, the survey involved face-to-face interviews with 1,200 adults nationwide, providing a snapshot of household conditions amid ongoing economic challenges and climate-related disruptions.
Dateline Malacañang.
A majority of Filipinos continue to feel safe within their communities, according to the July 2026 Tugon ng Masa or TNM survey conducted by Okta Research. The survey found that 72% of respondents said they feel secure in their neighborhoods. Meanwhile, 68% reported no fear of walking alone at night, and 54% expressed little concern about burglars entering their homes. Regional differences were notable. The Visayas posted the highest safety perception at 84%, while the National Capital Region or NCR recorded the lowest at 58%. Compared to the March 2023 survey, however, confidence levels across all three safety indicators declined nationwide. Okta noted that the sharp drop in Metro Manila may be linked to greater exposure to crime reports and social media content, which can shape perceptions of insecurity even if not fully reflective of actual risk. In contrast, the stronger sense of safety in the Visayas was attributed to the visible presence of local police and community-based security mechanisms that reinforce public confidence. The survey was conducted from July 4 to 11, 2026 through face-to-face interviews with 1,200 respondents aged 18 and above.
Dateline Malacañang.
Moving on, the Department of Education, or DepEd, reported Monday that more than 2 billion pesos in disaster response funds are urgently needed after the enhanced southwest monsoon and successive cyclones left 9,597 classrooms damaged nationwide. At least 1,594 schools have been affected, with Central Luzon bearing the brunt of the damage, accounting for 41% of the national total. In the region alone, 3,596 classrooms sustained minor and major damage across 412 schools, disrupting learning for 126,584 students. DepEd Secretary Sonny Angara, who joined President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. in a situation briefing in Pampanga, said the agency has already deployed immediate support to ensure learning continuity. Pampanga recorded the most severe losses with 1,689 classrooms damaged, followed by Bulacan with 933. To cover minor repairs and cleanup, DepEd has set an initial requirement of 318 million pesos, including 109.71 million pesos for Central Luzon alone. This covers debris clearing, sanitation, and minor repairs for nearly 2,000 classrooms. To accelerate cleanup efforts, DepEd is coordinating with the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, to tap its TUPAD program, providing short-term employment for displaced workers. Overall, DepEd estimates 2.6 billion pesos is needed for full recovery. 359 million pesos for major repairs across 718 schools, and 2.245 billion pesos for reconstruction of 898 schools. The agency is now drawing from its Disaster Preparedness and Response Program, or DPRP fund, and has submitted a special budget request to the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM. Beyond infrastructure, DepEd regional offices have launched emergency reprinting and procurement to replace 23,154 damaged self-learning modules. Central Luzon has logged the longest class disruptions, with up to 12 instructional days lost in Pampanga and Zambales. To safeguard learning continuity, DepEd has activated its 4H framework: Hinto, or suspend classes for safety; Hinga, or reduced load and psychosocial support; Hinay, or flexible learning; and Hayo, continue learning, under DepEd Order No. 14 Series of 2026. The agency also proposed a school-level approach to class resumption, allowing safe campuses to reopen even amid broader suspensions, subject to local government concurrence and safety assessments.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Office of Civil Defense, or OCD, reported Monday that the combined effects of tropical cyclones and the southwest monsoon, or habagat, have now impacted around 7.5 million people nationwide, equivalent to 2.2 million families across multiple regions, including Ilocos, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol, Western Visayas, Zamboanga Peninsula, Cordillera, and the National Capital Region or NCR. OCD Information Officer Diego Mariano said that 418 evacuation centers are currently sheltering 9,858 families or 33,358 individuals, while government assistance extended to affected communities has reached 1.31 billion pesos. Casualty figures under validation remain at 29 fatalities, with 19 injured and 3 still missing. Housing damage has been extensive, with 2,200 homes partially damaged and 285 completely destroyed. Infrastructure losses are estimated at 5.1 billion pesos, while agricultural damage stands at 1.7 billion, underscoring the scale of destruction across critical sectors. Authorities continue to mobilize relief operations and validate reports as millions of Filipinos grapple with the aftermath of severe weather disturbances.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Agriculture, or DA, has issued an advisory to farmers and fisherfolk, warning of possible impacts from tropical cyclones currently being monitored and the southwest monsoon or habagat affecting several parts of the country. According to the DA, while the storm is not expected to make direct landfall, large portions of Luzon, Western Visayas, and the Negros Island region are forecast to experience heavy rains due to the intensified monsoon. Farmers are advised to harvest crops that are ready, transfer seeds, farm inputs, and equipment to safe and elevated areas, and ensure adequate food, water, and medicine for livestock that may need to be evacuated. The agency also emphasized the importance of clearing irrigation canals to improve water flow and help prevent flooding. Fisherfolk are likewise urged to move boats and fishing gear to secure locations and postpone sailing if necessary, given the risk of strong winds and high waves. The DA stressed that these precautionary measures are critical to minimizing losses and safeguarding livelihoods as the country braces for the combined effects of severe weather and the southwest monsoon.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, has released 1 billion pesos to the University of the Philippines, or UP system, to strengthen Project NOAA's Artificial Intelligence, or AI-powered flood forecasting, real-time hazard monitoring, and disaster prevention capabilities. Officials say the investment gives government sharper tools to act before calamities strike, shifting disaster management from reactive relief to proactive risk reduction. DBM Acting Secretary Kim Robert De Leon underscored the importance of prevention. De Leon said the goal is to know where the danger is, who is at risk, and what needs to be done before disaster strikes. The funding, sourced from the fiscal year 2026 General Appropriations Act, allocates 935 million pesos for research services and 65 million pesos for program management and supervision. It will cover ICT and scientific equipment, hiring specialized personnel, and operational support systems. Project NOAA, managed by the UP Resilience Institute, employs AI-enhanced modeling, LiDAR mapping, and advanced data analytics to generate predictive flood scenarios and real-time hazard assessments. These tools are designed to help national and local governments make informed decisions before and during emergencies. De Leon emphasized that investing in prevention protects public infrastructure and resources from costly damage. The DBM previously partnered with UP NOAA under Project DIME, or Digital Information for Monitoring and Evaluation, integrating hazard assessments into infrastructure planning to reduce vulnerability to natural disasters.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other developments, security preparations are intensifying in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM, as the September 14 parliamentary elections approach. The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, reported that checkpoints across the region have surged to nearly 25,000, up from 18,000 last week. Officials explained that the sheer size of BARM accounts for the high number of checkpoints, which are spread throughout the region to safeguard the polls. The announcement follows the August 15 ambush attempt on BARM Chief Minister Abdul Rauf Makakwa in Maguindanao del Norte, prompting tighter security measures. COMELEC also reminded residents to strictly observe the gun ban, in effect until September 29th. Authorities have already apprehended 15 violators and seized more than 20 firearms, with all cases undergoing inquest proceedings. Violations carry serious penalties under the law, including 1 to 6 years imprisonment, loss of voting rights, and perpetual disqualification from public service. With checkpoints multiplying and enforcement tightening, COMELEC says the goal is clear: to secure the elections and protect voters across BARM.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, one person has died and 19 civilians were arrested for alleged violations of the gun ban being enforced ahead of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM, parliamentary elections. Latest figures from the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, show arrests spread across the region: 8 in Maguindanao del Sur, 6 in Maguindanao del Norte, 2 in Isabela City, and 3 in Lanao del Sur. One of those apprehended was killed during a police operation. Authorities confiscated more than 100 rounds of ammunition and 27 firearms, mostly small arms. The COMELEC monitoring report also logged one suspected violent election-related incident. The gun ban, which began on July 26, 2026, will remain in effect until September 29, 2026. More than 24,000 COMELEC checkpoints have been deployed across BARM to enforce the measure. Despite these incidents, COMELEC Chair George Erwin Garcia earlier said the situation in BARM remains generally peaceful just weeks before the September 14th parliamentary polls.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, rescued 10 workers after a tugboat sank off the coast of Botolan, Zambales on Monday morning amid strong waves and rough seas. In its situation report, the PCG said the vessel M-Tug SL Suwal 1 was being towed from the area where it had previously run aground when it began listing to its starboard side around 7:46 in the morning. Moments later, the tugboat was completely submerged in waters about 24 meters deep. The 10 workers jumped overboard as the vessel sank and were all rescued safely. The tugboat was carrying 15,000 liters of diesel, but its fuel tank remained intact. Responders immediately conducted shoreline patrols along the Bukaw River and nearby areas to check for possible oil spills. Absorbent pads and other spill response equipment were placed on standby for rapid deployment. PCG spokesperson Commodore Noemi Kayabyab said, investigators are looking into whether the tugboat struck submerged metal debris, possibly remnants of a previously sunken vessel. She noted that prevailing rough sea conditions may have worsened the vessel's list and stability before it capsized. The Coast Guard has called a meeting with the vessel's company representative, master, and stakeholders to determine next steps for the sunken tugboat, including measures concerning its diesel cargo. Monitoring of the surrounding waters continues, with marine environmental protection gear ready for immediate use. The incident comes just days after the same tugboat ran aground off Barangay Bangan, Botolan on August 14th when seawater entered through a breach in its hull.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Migrant Workers, National Capital Region or DMW-NCR, has rescued 519 overseas Filipino workers or OFWs from 24 unregistered accommodation facilities in Metro Manila, closed since June 2026 due to unsafe and inhumane living conditions. DMW Secretary Hans Leo Kakdak praised the intensified welfare checks, inspections, and closure operations, stressing that the effort ensures the safety, health, and dignity of OFWs while they await deployment abroad. He emphasized that registered recruitment agencies are legally bound to provide proper and humane temporary housing, while unregistered facilities can be inspected and shut down if found to violate standards. The crackdown is part of the department's broader mandate to strengthen protection and welfare services for OFWs and their families, in line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to safeguard the rights and well-being of Filipino migrant workers. The DMW reiterated that protecting OFWs from unsafe accommodations is critical, as many spend weeks or months in these facilities before deployment. By shutting down illegal centers, the agency aims to prevent exploitation and uphold the government's commitment to migrant welfare.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, for foreign exchange rates, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas reported that as of Tuesday, August 25th, the Philippine peso traded at 61 pesos and 74 centavos against the US dollar. The Japanese yen was valued at 39 centavos. The Singaporean dollar at 48 pesos and 61 centavos, the South Korean won at 4 centavos, and the Chinese yuan at 9 pesos and 18 centavos. Other key exchange rates showed the Hong Kong dollar at 7 pesos and 88 centavos, the British pound at 84 pesos and 21 centavos, the euro at 72 pesos and 1 centavo, the Canadian dollar at 44 pesos and 61 centavos, and the Saudi Arabian riyal at 16 pesos and 44 centavos.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our post as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and mabuhay.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.